I am recording because there's obviously not all of us here because there is a Jewish holiday, so I wanted to make sure everybody could see.
Oh, in that case.
We're just reviewing today.
Kidding.
Don't turn Jewish. Okay, so basically I just wanted to kind of work through the test review. So if there's any of these questions that you want to see, just let me know, basically. Okay, any questions? No, makes sense? Okay, so this one, yes, no? No, we're good? All it takes is one yes, because we'll have plenty of time. This one's pretty much the same as the last one, right?
Yes.
Okay. How about this one? It has an inequality. Do it? Why not? Okay. So, with inequalities and absolute values, what's the first thing we have to do? We want to look to see what it's doing, but we want to get the absolute value on its own. Maybe if I tried enlarging it, that would help, because it's so small. Does that help? Yeah. Okay, we'll go with that. Okay, so we said we have to make sure the absolute value is on its own, right? So can an absolute value be less than or equal to 1? Is that possible?
Yes.
Yeah. If it was -1, no, right? That'd be an automatic no solution. But it's +1, so we can go ahead and solve, right? How do we set this up? 4 minus 4x less than or equal to 1. And 4 minus 4x greater than or equal to -1. Yep. Okay. And then we solve, right? So we subtract 4. So we have -4x less than or equal to anybody? -3. And then
Divide by -4.
which does
Changes signs.
changes the sign,
And then the -3 and 4.
and the negatives
Positive.
cancel, so it's just 3/4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now on to the other one. So again, subtract the 4, so we get -4x is greater than or equal to -5, and then 5/4. Okay, so now what? Question or? I did on both, but yes. What now? Now that we have them both solved, what do we do with them? Yeah, do a number line. So, what are our important numbers?
3/4.
3/4 and 5/4. Okay, so what type of circles do they get?
Closed.
They both get closed. So we know for sure those points are good, right? We want an interval, right? Yeah, interval notation that does this somehow. So what do we do now? We have circles. Okay. You can if you trust your signs, right? Or what's the other way that we've done it in class? We checked sections, right? So we can check this section, and this section. Okay, so what's a number over here? 0. So let's try x equals 0. If we go to the original, remember all the way back to the absolute value version, if we plug in 0 here, we would get, well, this term goes away, right? So it's just the absolute value of 4, which is 4. Is 4 less than or equal to 1? No. So this section doesn't work, right? Because 0, x can't equal 0, basically. What about this section? What's the number within 3/4 and 5/4? 1, which is 4/4, right? So can x equal 1? Well, again, let's go back. If we plug in 1 here, well, 4 times 1 is 4. 4 minus 4 is 0. What's the absolute value of 0? 0. Is 0 less than or equal to 1? Yes. Right? So 1 is good. What's something bigger than 5/4? 2. Can x equal 2? Okay, again, let's plug in. So we're doing 2 here. Well, what's 4 times 2? 8. So then we have the absolute value of 4 minus 8, which is -4, technically, because I haven't done the absolute value yet. And the absolute value of -4 is 4. So then we have 4 less than or equal to 1. That doesn't work. So, only the middle section works. How do we write that?
Bracket.
Bracket, because it's a closed circle.
3/4.
3/4.
Comma. 5/4. Bracket.
Yep. They're both closed, so they're both brackets, and just endpoint to endpoint. Any questions on this one? If I miss your hand because I'm blinded by the light, just let me know. Okay? All right. How about that one? Yes? Let's do it out. I'm assuming that I'm going to be doing most of the absolute value problems on the practice test.
No.
What's the first step? Subtract 1, getting it alone. Yeah. Okay, so we subtract by 1, so that means we have 5 absolute value of 3 minus 2x less than 7, right? What now? The 5. So then we have absolute value of 3 minus 2x less than 7/5. Then what? Well, is this possible first? Now that we have the absolute value alone, can an absolute value be less than 7/5? Yeah, it's the same as the 1 from the last one, right? Or whatever it was. It was 1, wasn't it? I don't know. Whatever it was last time. It's a positive number. Doesn't change anything. So we can go ahead. Do the positive and the negative version, right? So that means we have 3 minus 2x less than 7/5 and 3 minus 2x greater than negative 7/5. I'm trying to stay in the light, but I didn't leave myself quite enough room. Okay, so what next?
You subtract.
We solve. We subtract the 3. So we have negative 2x less than, what is 3 in fifths terms, right? So we want 3 over 1 to be something over 5. So we multiply by 5/5. So it's 15/5. So we're subtracting that from 7. What's 7 minus 15? It's the top that we care about. We know the bottom is going to be 5, right?
8.
Negative 8.
I'll start at that.
Okay. Now what?
Divide by -2.
Divide by -2. Okay, so when we divide by -2, that's like multiplying by -1/2, right? Because it's weird to divide a fraction. Okay? So that means we have x greater than, because it's a negative, so we gotta flip. Negative, negative, so it's a plus. And then also we should notice we have 8 and a 2. We can simplify that, right? Take the 2 into the 8, leaving you with 4. And so those negatives cancel. So we just have 4/5. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, now we have the other one to do. So again, subtract the 3, which was 15/5. So now it's -7 minus 15. Which is -7 minus 15?
I mean, not 8, yeah, it's 8. -8?
-7 minus 15.
Well, 8.
So you got a negative number minus a number. There you go.
22.
Yep.
And now factor the second negative.
Over 5.
You said it.
You good. Okay, now what? Multiply by -1/2. That's another way of thinking about it. Yeah. So that means we have x is what? Less than. We got to flip. And we're multiplying by -1/2. Sorry, I kind of went off the light. So the negatives cancel. The 2 cancels. So leave you with just 11 over 5. So those are our 2 numbers. Let's do it the line way instead of the section way this time. Though I would still always check my sections just in case, kind of thing. So we have our important numbers, 4/5 and 11/5. What type of circles? Open. And this circle goes which direction? Right, because it's greater than. And this circle goes left, because it's less than. So, do we take everything, or do we take the overlap? The overlap, yeah. So, how do we write this in interval notation? Parentheses, because they're open, and just endpoint to endpoint. This was almost exactly like the previous one, except it wasn't or equal to, right? So it was parentheses instead of brackets. And there was stuff to do it in the beginning. Once you get it to this point, they're almost all the same, right? Because it's all the same steps from there. It's just getting it to have the absolute value alone first. Okay. Next. What about this one? Yes?
No.
Do it? No? No? Okay. Well, first, is it possible? That's all I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is possible, because it's greater than a positive number, right? Okay. What about this one? Do it?
No. Well, no, you can't.
It's not possible though, right? So actually, what's the answer?
No
No solution. So we're already done. What about this one? Not no solution, because it's greater than a negative number. You gotta be careful on those. Negative number on the other side doesn't automatically mean bad. This one is good. An absolute value is always bigger than a negative number, right? So what would your answer be?
Infinity?
Everything. Negative infinity to positive infinity. So basically, we've figured out that if negative is on the other side, we like those, because it's either all or nothing as our answer, right? Simple. Question?
Oh, that was.
I like to just answer them before I hear them, evidently. Okay, what about this one?
Keep going.
This is just plugging in, right? That's not too bad. Okay,
Keep going.
this one again is plugging in. That middle one's not awesome because
You
it's,
should have started from the last ones.
what?
You should have started from like the last one, the easiest one.
They're not always
Keep going.
necessarily easy to hard. They're section by section generally, sorted a little bit on the practice test, I think. So far that I've seen. So this one we're good,
Mm-hmm.
because it's just intercepts.
Mm-hmm. Keep going.
What about this one? Do we remember the distance formula?
Yes.
What is it?
X1 plus X2.
Nope, that's
Square
midpoint.
root. Square root. X2
Distance
minus
is
X1.
the square root.
Parentheses square plus Y.
X
Two.
squared
Minus X.
Minus X1. Parentheses square.
squared plus.
Keep going.
Yeah, that.
Oh, yeah, put it on the
Okay,
parentheses.
that. Oh, squared. That is the distance formula. There were some people that didn't square root. Okay, they did everything else and then they just forgot the square root at the end. So don't forget that part. It's important. You will get it wrong if you forget it. Okay. All right. Then this is just another distance.
Keep going.
Slope.
Keep going.
Good on that, right?
Y2
Yeah.
minus Y1.
What is the formula for slope?
Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1.
Yep. Okay. Then, again, slope. Good. Yes.
Good.
What about this one?
Same thing. Keep
We're
going.
just finding slope. Yeah. It's almost easier because you can just count. Graphs are sometimes nice.
Keep going.
Well, what would this one be? It's very quick
Y equals 5.
because it's horizontal, so that's y equals, and you just choose the y value of the point, right? Done. Okay. What about this one? X equals -4. Vertical is x. What about this one?
Good.
Good? We had plenty of those. Are you awake? What about this one?
Keep going.
Good.
Parallel, perpendicular?
Keep going.
What's the slopes
-8
of, not that.
Perpendicular.
Parallel slopes are
Same
the
slope.
same, perpendicular are
Opposite.
negative reciprocals. Completely the opposite, yes. Okay. What's neither? Neither of those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again.
No.
How about this one? We're good on this?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is very good.
Again, pretty much the same thing, but with fractions.
All the way to 30.
Fine.
Good on this too? I'm gonna assume this one's okay.
Yep,
Yep, that's easy.
that's easy.
That's easy. Yeah.
That's pretty simple, but we can talk through it. Yeah? It's a little weird, but it's simple. So, is this a function? How do we tell?
You look at the X.
We look at the x's,
If there's the
see if
same
there's any
one.
repeats. Yeah, exactly. So, we should notice we have
Two
a
eights.
1 and a 1.
Two
And
eights.
an 8 and an 8. Oh, and a 9 and a 9. So, definitely not. Everything is repeated. Right? So, because there's x is going to different y values, it's not a function. Right? So, we would say no, and then elements of the domain,
You look at the first X.
just the x values. So, 8, 1, and 9. Right? Okay, I bet I know the next one. Range.
Look at the Y.
Look at the y's. We have 8, 2, 3, 1, 9. So, which
C.
one would that be?
C.
C?
Yep.
Yes, I agree. It was confusing me because they weren't in order, any order. Yeah, that's just why it was confusing me for a second. Okay, and that's it on that one. Not too bad, right? But you just have to think about it for a second. Okay, what about about this? We're looking at the graph. Are we good?
Yes.
Right? It's pretty much the exact same thing as the last one because it's still just points. And it's actually easier because you're looking at them. You can see if any of them do what? If they overlap. If you can touch them with vertical lines. Question?
Yeah, so what would you put as the relation? Like, is it the range to make a relation is, would you just put 0?
No, you would put the, oh, yes, sorry. You would put the y values, which are all just 0 on this one. So yes. I didn't look at it before I said no, so you should probably do that. Yeah, so this one would just be 0. The domain would be all of the x values, right? So 0, 3, 4, 5. Okay. What about this one? We just plug it in, right? What about this last one? We're good on this last one?
Yep.
Yeah? Okay. Just notice what it says here. Simplify, do not factor, means when you plug it in, multiply it out, combine like terms, leave it alone. Don't do anything else. Okay? Alright. What about this one?
Keep going.
Good.
Good? It's pretty much the same as last one, just now it's squared.
Keep going.
This is again plug it in, and we've even given you options.
Keep going.
Same thing on this one, except remember, if the x is in multiple places, you gotta plug it in multiple places, right? Every x gets replaced. Okay,
Okay.
let's do this one.
Yes.
I thought so.
I don't get these.
All right, what type of function is that?
Rational.
Rational, why?
There's a polynomial at the top.
Because there's a, and then it started to mumble.
There's a value.
There's a fraction, more than that though, because there's a variable in the bottom, yes. So because of that t in the bottom, we're good, it's rational. If there wasn't a t squared in the bottom, it would be just a polynomial, yep. Okay, so it's a rational. And then how do we figure out the domain?
So 3t squared greater than 0.
Not greater than, that's root. What's bad about a fraction? The bottom can't be equal to 0, right? So just do that. 3t squared can't equal 0, right? Okay, and then solve. So divide by 3. So t squared can't equal still 0, right? Because 0 divided by anything is 0. And then if we take the square root, what's the square root of 0?
0.
Not plus or minus, right? Because, well, 0 is 0. So t cannot equal 0. How do we write that as domain in interval notation? Negative infinity to 0 with a parenthesis. And then union 0 to positive infinity. Yeah, we just pulled 0 out, right? Okay. What about this one? What type is this? Polynomial, which means the domain is everything. Yep. Because there's nothing we can't plug into a polynomial, right? There's things we maybe don't want to because it'd be horrible and ugly, right? But we can. That's the important part. Okay. What about this one? The root, because there's a root. Wow. Okay. Sorry, I had to. So how do we figure out the domain of a root function? Can't be a negative. So how do we set that up?
8 minus x
8 minus x is
greater than 0.
greater than 0. Can it be equal to? Yes, it just can't be negative. Okay, and then we solve, right? So subtract the 8. So negative x is greater than or equal to negative 8. So then x is less than or equal to positive 8. Okay. How do we write that in interval notation? Negative infinity to 8 inclusive, right? Because it's less than, so the smallest thing is negative infinity. If it helps, put it on the number line, then go to interval notation, right? Because it's just one extra little step. It will not kind of make or break you on time, but it could make or break you on the question. Okay? We good on that one?
I think so.
All right. What about this? It's another root.
Mm-hmm.
So what do? Why?
Because since the root is negative, or not negative, I'm sorry, odd, anything would work on the inside.
Because odd roots can have negative insides, right? So the last one was even, it was an 8, so we had to actually do it. Not the inside was an 8, the power was an 8, right? But because this power is a 7, it's an odd number,
Negative.
everything works.
Oh, I gotta do some wrong.
Make sense?
So your answer.
The answer is just everything. Negative infinity to infinity. Okay. What about this one? It's rational.
Rational.
Mhm. So what do? Can't equal 0. So 2x plus 1 can't equal 0. And then we solve, right?
Yep.
So 2x can't equal -1, and x can't equal -1/2. How do we write that?
Negative infinity, comma.
Negative infinity to
Negative 1/2.
-1/2,
Square thing.
not included.
Yeah,
Union.
Negative infinity. I mean,
-1/2. I got you.
comma infinity.
To infinity. Yep. So, we have absolute values with inequalities. We have lines, parallel and perpendicular, right? Domain, range. Now, one thing that I didn't see any questions of on here is y a function of x? So remember, that's just if you can solve it kind of thing, right? Or wait, was that in? That was in 3.1, yes. That's in this test. So can you solve it for y kind of thing? Get y on its own, and y doesn't equal multiple things. It's the kind of opposite of the domain, right? Thing with if it's a function or not. If x goes to one number or in a second number, then it's not a function. So y equals is the opposite. Does y go to like a positive and a negative version? Then it's bad, right? Remember those when, I feel like I'm just confusing you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's when if we had like y squared plus x equals 2, right? If we try to solve for y, we get negative x plus 2, and then we take the square root. When we take the square root, it equals a plus or minus square root, right? So that would be y is equal to plus or minus the square root of negative x plus 2. If we tried to draw that graph, it would be something like this. It'd be the positive version and the negative version. That, because of the vertical line test, is not a function, right? So that's why when we get a positive and a negative version here like this, it's not a function. Okay? So basically what we're saying here, y cannot be written as a function of x. Okay? A single function of x. That's the important part. So that's bad. If it was just this, well, that's just y equals negative x plus 2. That's just a line, right? That's just there. That's it. It's all good. Okay? Or if it was y plus x squared equals 2. Well, that's just y equals negative x squared plus 2. That's just that. An upside down parabola. That's a function, right? Okay? So it's mainly when things are happening to the y that we care about, because we're trying to solve for y. Okay? Okay. Are there any that I skipped that you want me to go back or do a similar one to, or anything like that? No? We're good? Okay, so this test is 1.8 through 3.1, okay? So 3.1 is due tonight, so make sure it's, done, all right? And then, so tomorrow is test 2. I will be submitting midterm grades that include test 2 before the retake, okay? So the grade you get tomorrow that influences your grade is the grade that goes into midterm, okay? But that's not a final grade or affect your grade or anything like that, okay? The other aspect of the midterm grade is that I will not be dropping 2 quizzes on it, just because it's too difficult to do, to set it up to drop 2 quizzes, take it away, and then set it up again. So if I set it up right now, it'll just drop continuously through the end of what you have in there right now. It won't take into account quizzes afterwards, okay? So I'm just not doing it, okay? So it's kind of like your worst possible grade, version of your grade, okay? Let's see, anything else? Retake next Monday, okay? And then,
3.2.
I will be teaching 3.2 on Thursday, finishing it, because I think I pretty much did it all already, right? I just have a teensy little bit left. Then, let's see, so I'll do that, and then into 3.3, which we should pretty much be on schedule still, even with doing the review today. And then, like I said, retake on Monday. Don't forget about quiz, right? Wait, yeah, quiz 5 on Wednesday, okay? Quiz 3, which was the same week as the retake of test 1, was our lowest average, okay? We're coming off of our highest average quiz. I don't want to go back down, okay? I was really proud of you guys when I saw that it was an 83 average. That's awesome. Like, we outscored all the other sections. Okay. So go you. Usually night classes don't. So again, go you. So just be careful over the weekend to remember to study also for that quiz. Okay? All right. We're done. See you tomorrow.
This Bucky.